So, gentlemen, what are we drinking this evening? Craig.
I forgot my beer.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause and go get my beer now. This is highly necessary.
We will move very crisply onto, very quickly onto Chris.
I've never been accused of moving quickly. I am drinking in honor of the summer weather. I'm drinking some tequila. Got Casse Pattes Gran Reserva Extra Añejo in my glass.
I was expecting you to give us another whiskey, but tequila sounds quite pleasant. How about you, Brent?
I have an Alberta Genuine Draft from Big Rock Brewery, which is I guess we'll call it a craft brewery. I think it's too big to be called a microbrewery anymore. Here in just north of where I am in Calgary.
But I have a bottle of Chianti, which is apparently a vintage from 2019, which was such a long time ago, and it is from Casse in Italy. I think the actual name of it is in such small writing that I can't actually read it, but it's a bottle of Chianti anyway. Um, we're still waiting for Craig to return from his travels to
No,
find
I'm
out.
back. I'm back.
Craig is back.
So
Craig, what are you drinking?
I am now drinking a Velocipede India Pale Ale.
Sounds fast.
It has bikes on it. It seemed appropriate.
Will it be fast enough tomorrow? That is the question.
It is. It is. We'll see. We'll see.
Indeed. So speaking of tomorrow, this weekend, actually, I'm going to do it in a way that Steve Pritchard will approve of. This weekend, in the Herd Summer Racing League, we head to France, where our racers will take on a single lap of Casse Pattes. With a total distance of 23.9 kilometres and an elevation gain of 155 metres, our racers will take on the Marina and Pavé sprints, followed by the Aqueduct and Petit Combs. Race for time segments as fast as you can to secure points versus your competitors in your category, and push hard to the finish line to win extra points for your overall position in your category. That was a lot of effort, and I don't think I should do that again.
That was exciting, James.
It sounded exciting, and it is actually an exciting race course. Luckily, we have Brent and Chris on hand to tell us exactly how exciting it really was.
Super exciting.
It was good.
It sounds so enthusiastic.
This stuff for everybody.
So, this course, obviously, mainly flat for probably the first about, I'd say, 15 kilometres. And then you've got the aqueducts, followed fairly quickly by Petit Con. We have the first sprint after, I think, 0. Well, let's just call it 600 metres. How did that go?
Chris, you should give the instructions here because I blew it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I placed pretty well in this one. This was the only segment I got a top 10 in, I think. I was looking at the standings afterwards. You just got to come warm up and hit it hard out of the gate, but make sure you got a whole group in front of you so you can draft off of it the whole time. It's nice because not everyone reads the instructions heading into these races, so not everybody knows that that's a time segment. So you can use that to your advantage. You get a little bit higher up the leaderboard if you catch some folks unaware that we're in a time segment right away. But yeah, come warmed up, because that is one of the 4 time segments, and it comes, you're done with it before you're a minute into the race. So prime opportunity to score some points.
So that's the Marina sprint. And then we have pretty much 11 kilometres of probably drafting along, nothing real in the whole climb point of view. You've got a couple of ramps, maybe 3-4%, that last maybe 5-10 seconds. Then, not long before we get to the aqueduct, we've got the Pavé sprint, which is 333 metres. How did that go, gents?
Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it was pretty much straightforward herd racing league stuff. Just try and get to the back of the group and sprint through. It's a longer one, so you don't really need to start hitting the gas till you're past the green line. You don't really need to wind up before that, and then just give her as hard as you can. I thought they looked like some guys tried to banner attack it a little bit coming through, but it gave up in about, because I thought they were going to banner attack to the aqueduct because it's so close, but it all fell apart.
So I guess I disagree. I I wind up before the start of these ones too, even at this length. I find it works for me, but I like I'm kind of a long sprint guy, so.
This is what, probably 20, 25 seconds?
Ooh.
I'd say definitely
330 meters.
So I'd say probably 200 meters is 15 seconds. So let's call it 25. Craig, does that sound about right?
I'm looking it up now. I'm not sure. It's I feel like it's longer than that. Like it's closer to 30, but
that's 330 meters.
The fastest time today was 18.4.
Okay, so
but there were only two Bs under 20. Snowy is a beast.
Yeah.
So let's call it 20 to 25 seconds. I can't all-out sprint for that long. I think my all-out sprint I'm probably limited to about 15 seconds. Craig, you've probably got about 5 seconds on me, maybe a little bit more. Do you reckon you can go full out for the whole distance on that one?
So I find if I'm gonna ease up, it needs to be at the highest speed I can hit. So I'm better off, losing some power approaching the finish line of the sprint than not already accelerating before the start. That's my way of thinking anyway. But
yeah, I think I'd go with that. I think if it was 400, 500 meters, I'd probably build into it. But for 330, I'd probably go all out from the start and just try and hang on as long as possible.
Yeah, no, I really think that even the Aqueduct KOM, I do the same way. I'm trying to accelerate before we hit the start line. So
the trick for me in this one is I can't do this sprint in a vacuum because you get punched in the face by the Aqueduct right after you get punched in the face by Pave. They come in really quick succession. So I have to manage my effort. People are talking about matches plural. I've got like a match. And I have to burn half of it on Pave and then blow it out because I know I got to relight that in. Gosh, it's like you blink 4 times and you're on the rollers to start the Aqueduct. You got to do it all over again. So it's a dynamic sprint for me. I got to find if there's a group coming through that I can latch on and draft part of the sprint and save some energy, and then do the same on Aqueduct. That's what I'm going to do. So I have to adjust on the fly for this.
That's fair.
Very, very, very shortly afterwards, we have the Aqueduct KOM, and I've just looked at my Strava PBs. My best time on the Aqueduct is 33 seconds, and that was holding 493 watts, which is, I guess, around 6-7 watts a kilo. So, Craig, would you go all out on the Aqueduct, or would you temper it back a little bit, knowing you've got to hold it for 30 seconds?
No, that's all out. Absolutely all out.
Fair enough.
And most especially, it's all out during the on the hill. So it starts with a hill and then it's flat to the finish line. So if you're going to lose anything, you want it to be after you've crested that top. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 7.25 watts per kilo for me. With my, if I have a really, really, really good 15-second sprint, I can probably do 12.
Yeah, so my best is 32.2 at 592 watts for 7.6. So, and that was last September, trying to chase new heights down.
I guess we will have to see how we do. The problem is it's so close after Pave. And I think last September I'm guessing that would have been an early HSRL where the segments didn't exist on Zwift Power.
Only the KOMs.
Apart from Aqueduct and Petitcom. So that was probably the only one you were going for. Mm-hmm. So whether or not you can match that this time round, maybe not. And I don't particularly fancy holding 7-8 watts a kilo after doing like a full on sprint for 330 meters. Only what's the difference? Parve Sprint finishes at 11.8, and then you've got Aqua.com at 13.3. So it's coming at you straight away. It's basically a case of doing whatever you possibly can.
Yep. Yep, it is.
And not too far away, only 4 kilometers down the road. So obviously you've got your descent round down the rollers after the Aqueduct KOM. You're heading pretty quickly into the Petitcom, which starts at 17.3. So this is a 2.7 kilometer climb. Top B's maybe 5 minutes 30. My PB is 6:02. And I'm fairly certain there are some bees who can do that probably 20 or 30 seconds faster than me. Chris and Brent, any ideas how well you went today?
I think I was probably about 14th over the top for time over the top, and probably I was about that place too. I don't. How about you, Chris? I don't. You fell a bit further back than me, but
I was well behind you, Brent.
it was. I think the thing to remember about the Petite KOM is that the first kilometer almost is like not very steep and very draftable. So like the times, like you're talking about your PB, James, the fastest time was a 5:16, and there was a group at 5:25, and I did 5:40 with another group that didn't hang
Yeah,
on.
my PB was when me and you raced it a week before last, and there was no draft at all.
Exactly.
I,
And I
I
did
think
5:40 on this one.
you raise a really valid point, because the first, like you say, kilometer is probably about 3%, and then you get like probably 5-6%. It's a bunch of hairpins, or switchbacks, whatever you want to call them, but there are flat bits in between the first two. So you do the first switchback, and then between the first and the second, you've got a really flat bit, which is obviously brilliant for drafting. So it's a very draftable climb until maybe the last turn or two, where you don't get much in the way of draft. So if you are looking to hammer the primes, as Craig loves to say, you really, really, really want to be with people, and preferably someone who's just a tiny little bit faster than you, just so you can just hang on to the wheel.
Yeah, like when I went today, I was right in the front group until there's like a turn where it goes to like a 6-7%. And
Hmm.
then the really light guys turned up the gas there and caused a bit of a break between that front group, about 15 or 16 of us. And then I stayed with the back end of that group of like 15 of us over the top down the other side. But those fastest 9 guys who all went in that kind of 5:25, 5:30 range, that's where they
Five
broke it and went off the front.
5:40 is an absolutely fantastic time, by the way. Um, Craig,
It was all draft.
yeah, I don't believe that for a second. Craig, your thoughts on Petticom?
It is absolutely a draft to the steep bit, and then attack. And if you're, I mean, really, at that point, there's no draft, so you're attacking the hill. You're not necessarily attacking the group, because it doesn't matter. Attack the hill once you get to the steep bit on that, 2-3% bit for the lead in, and then the first couple switchbacks. Yeah, just stay in the group and go, but then attack after that.
Yeah, and when we're talking about steep, we're really probably only talking about the last sort of 10-15% of that climb.
Maybe a little bit more than that, as far we're talking about time, not
Mhm.
distance. But yeah, I think it may be the last minute.
Yeah. And once we get over the top, well, once we go through the banner, it's a little bit mean, because you do actually have to climb a little bit further after the banner, and then it's basically a mad dash down the hill, and then it flattens out with probably a kilometer to go, maybe 1.5. Um, but yeah, so dash down the hill, and then a mad sprint to the finish line. Chris, Brent, did you have much company when you got down to the bottom of the hill?
I was in a group of 5 from 10 to 15, and I got 12th. So I was right in the middle of the sprint, which is about I'm a very average sprinter.
Hmm.
So it's about what I would have expected. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I partnered up with a couple other riders to finish off Pettycom, and that last little ramp that comes after the banner, you can use strategically to either push up to another wheel or fall back to another wheel because you definitely want to have wheels with you on that descent. But yeah, we ended up kind of coalescing into a group of I think 5 of us to get down to the finish.
Very good. So, next on our list of things to talk about, actually, let's talk about Zwift Racing League. So, the Zwift Racing League starts on September 28th. It is 8 weeks long. There are 2 qualifying events, which I think have caused all sorts of confusion. Hooray! So, the 2 qualifying events are actually part of the series. Do not think that these are non-important races because they will give you points. They will give you team points, which will constitute towards league points. The 2 qualifying events are to ensure that the league that your team is in is fair. So if there are overpowered teams in your league, after those 2 events, they will probably be promoted. And if there are teams in your league who are really, really struggling, they will get dropped down to another league to basically make it fairer for them and give them something to work towards. But reason why I sort of like entered this into our itinerary is we have a survey opened. It's in the Herd Racing League. It's a pinned announcement. If you haven't already filled it in, please do if you would like to enter. It's so important that we get as many people who want to race in as possible so we can balance our teams as much as we possibly can. I know, Craig, due to personal circumstances, you're probably not able to enter that many races this season.
Yeah, so we'll see. I am going to be away for work at some point, probably during the season, but I don't know how that's going to go. But I was very excited that they are going to do a new Atlantic League, which is my early morning, so roughly the same time as the Zone 1 in the summer, which then turned into the Zone 2 in the winter, so which is late for the Aussies, but that same 5 a.m. in the morning for me. So that would be by far the most convenient for me, so I'm hoping that sticks.
So talking about the Atlantic Zone, my understanding is that time will remain constant, even though there are 3 different time zone changes in the duration of this Zwift Racing League season.
Yeah, so what's basically, I think what's going to happen is that Atlantic is going to be the same as the Thursday TTT Zone 2. It's going to anchor to Eastern Time, or North American Eastern Time, as opposed to the Australian Eastern Time, which Zone 1 anchors to, and that's the APAC League. So they're going to try those 2 leagues. I'm hoping that there's a decent league in each one. I know, so I did APAC for season 3, and it was good, but I mean, it was a little smaller. It was definitely smaller than America's East or the EMEA leagues. So it's still kind of only a little bit bigger than America's West. So I'm hoping we get a full league for both Atlantic and APAC.
Fingers crossed. Anyone that's listening, if you would like to enter into either the APAC or America's West League or Atlantic, we are struggling for numbers at the moment. Please fill in the survey. Please let us know your interest, because anyone that enters really, really helps us. Just to be able to put a team together. We're really struggling for numbers at the moment. Europe and America's East, we're golden, but APAC and America's West and Atlantic, we're really struggling for numbers at the moment. So if you would like to enter and you can race at those times, please do.
Yeah. So, and I would say, and James, you're struggling through what I did for the previous ZRL seasons in trying to get people to sign up through the forum. Sign up through the forum, even if you have already talked to somebody that's been a captain and they want to have you on their team. Sign up to the forum. We'll work all that out. But the biggest thing is, if you sign up in the forum, you are going to get a team. There's no selection. There's no cuts. We'll find a team for everyone, as long as, and I'm promising for James, but this is the way we work. But as long as there's enough people in the zone and in the category.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to say is like, so Peter Forbes earlier said, I'm only a low B. Should I still actually sign up? Yes, you should. Realistically, I don't care if you're a low B, low C, low D. I want you to be able to like race in our teams and have fun. We will do our very, very best to sort the teams so that you're in like roughly the same sort of power range as other people in your teams. And if you're not, don't worry. Just go out, pedal dead hard, and have fun. Whilst there may be some teams who take Zwift Racing League exceptionally seriously, this is about having fun. This is about joining a racing team, enjoying yourself, getting to know other people, just having fun. Pedal your heart out. I genuinely don't want to hear anyone saying, "Oh, I'm a really, really low C or really, really low D. I don't think I can enter a team." Yes, you can. Please do. Please fill in the form. Please have fun. Make new friends. The end.
Yeah, and James, I'd say definitely, that Mullets team that we were on in season 2 was one of the ones that got a little serious, but we still had a lot of fun. And
we really did. Like, so we had like you and Orjan who were like hammering everything, and then there was me and a couple others who were a little bit further towards the back, but still having fun, still having like midfield battles. And ultimately, it's not necessarily about winning races. It's about finding mini battles throughout the race. So let's say you're in a group of 6 and there's a little climb coming up. Try and beat that group of 6 going to the top. Or if you've got a sprint coming up, try and out sprint that group of 6 and just have fun, please. Do not take it too seriously. That there are teams who may well do, and they may well happen within the herd, and that's also fine. But all I want is people to enter this racing league and have fun and be able to like talk to other people about how they enjoyed it, any feedback about how teams were put together, but most importantly, please join, please have fun, and all we can never ask is that you do your best.
Our bidet team was not very competitive our last season, but I still think we had a lot of fun. Hey, Chris?
I think Chris has probably fallen asleep after me talking for far too long.
Or he potentially left his mute button on.
Well, I'll say that the bidet team was not very competitive, and I think we still all had a lot of fun. So
yeah,
good.
You sign up. Don't get put off by the kvetching about qualification or groups or any of the rest of it. It all falls by the wayside after one race.
Yeah. And whatever you do not ever, 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 ever follow the Zwift Racing League forum on Facebook. Because that will put you off everything. Mainly down to the fact it's full of people who are extremely seriously competitive and get really, really angsty when they really, really don't need to. Which is one of the great things I think about the Herd Racing League Facebook group, in that we don't take things too seriously, and we always try and have a good time. Moving on to what we have to look forward to this week. After the Herd Summer Racing League with one lap of Casse Pattes, we move on to the Herd of Mountain Goats, which is on Sunday and Monday. do not be daunted by the fact it's the Arctobound route. So the Arctobound route is essentially a double lap of Innsbruck UCI. However, this week it is just 9 kilometers long. It is just a race up the reverse Innsbruck KOM, and there will be a banner at 9.0 kilometers.
Oh, that's
After
tempting,
that,
James.
Doable.
oh, it's gonna be fun.
Reverse
um,
Innsbruck is pure evil. It's
oh
not
god,
quite
yeah.
Pentop evil, but it is nasty.
It is only 425 meters of climbing.
Yeah, there's a lot of 12% on that route.
There is a fair amount. After that, and this one is a little bit special. In the Stampede on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we have a single lap of the Road to Ruins course. Anyone who knows the Road to Ruins course will know that half of it is tarmac and half of it is mud. That takes you down into the jungle after a fairly steep climb. So bike choice is crucial, and I think that, Craig, this is probably one of the only routes where a bike swap is actually relevant.
I think it's more than relevant. I think bike swap is where you need to go. But I'm sure Steve is going to be very disappointed that he misses the episode where we talk about a route where bike swap is actually the answer.
And I'm just going to say this: anyone who has the Canyon Speedmax and uses it as a TT bike, because obviously that's what it is, you might want to look and see if there's a Canyon mountain bike. That's my top tip for tonight. So Road to Ruins.
Swap over gravel bike? I wonder if gravel bike might not balance.
It's an interesting theory, but I don't think it does. So the problem with the gravel bike is that it's so much slower. In a drafting race, you might be able to talk about it, but in the TT, the TT bikes are just so much faster than the gravel bikes on the tarmac.
And realistically, the only routes that are even viable for gravel bikes are in Makiri Islands.
Yeah.
This is 100% TT bike until you hit mud. Switch to mountain bike, go around the jungle, switch back to TT. All going to come down to how quickly you can change your bike. I think this is a great course for the Stampede, even though it's a little bit manic. On to Tuesday, where we have the final event of the second series of the Herd Series, HERD. Yeah, I'm not even going to explain it actually. It's 2 laps of chain jumper, which is a mix of tarmac and gravel, which also presents its own bike change quandaries. And I've had some messages earlier asking me which bike should I use. Da 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 da. You start on tarmac. Start on a tarmac bike.
James, I have a question for you.
Carry on.
Do the primes work on Makuri Island yet?
They do.
Excellent.
Hence why this event exists. Zwift added the Mercury Primes to Zwift Power about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And Chain Chomper, you have the Country Sprint, you have the Castle KOM, and you have the Temple KOM. The Temple KOM is on gravel. Do not let that confuse you. Do not let you think that means you need to swap your bikes. If you swap your bikes on the Temple KOM, you will lose places. And we do that twice. So 2 lots of Country Sprint, Castle KOM, and Temple Com. The Castle KOM is an odd one. It's probably a 6-minute climb, but the first probably 4 minutes of that are like maybe 2 to 3%. And then you have like 6 to 7 for the end of it. Whereas the Temple KOM is mainly 6 to 7 with some drops in the middle. Neither of these are proper climbs where you're climbing constantly. They both have like rolling sections. Take a road bike, I would save a Tron and see how you go. And finally, on Wednesday and Thursday, we move on to the Bullseye Points Race, which is our multi-lap points race where you will score up to 50 points for your position in your category over the lap banner each lap, apart from the final lap where you will score up to 100 points, and there are 6 laps. Any thoughts on any of these events, guys?
I'm excited to try Chain Chomper. I'm jealous I get to go first. I'm gonna have to watch and see how it goes. The last time I ever tried a McCreary Island race, I totally like, oh, I'll be so smart. I'll try my gravel bike, and like, I DNF'd it after a minute because the group went so far in front of me that I just was so angry at myself that I gave up.
I did a non-points based chain chomper event on a gravel bike, and I lost the group the moment it hit the hill, and it was horrid.
Yeah.
And three laps of chain chomper is 40k, and it's hard. The whole thing is hard.
That whole map is still I don't have it internalized yet, so I don't know. I don't know segments. I don't know where surfaces start and end and bike choice. So I've got some serious acclimation to do with that map.
Yeah, chain chomper is hard.
Yeah, I'm very much the same. I have not ridden McCreary Islands much. Same thing. I don't know what routes are what, and what routes take what turns. It's kind of all new, but it's also, without the segments there hasn't been anything to race that, the points races that I really like haven't been there. Yeah, I just haven't played with it because of that. So I'm really hoping that there's some decent races there, but I'm also, desperately waiting for another new world with a climb.
So James's top tip: look for go onto our YouTube channel, Heard on TV, because someone decided to record every single one of those routes, apart from the new ones. I haven't done those yet. So I decided it was a really, really good idea to challenge myself to do every single one of the new McCreary Islands routes in one day, which is about 100 kilometers, and decided I'd do like another 20 afterwards for fun. But if you go onto our YouTube channel and look at the playlists, there's a McCreary Island playlist that will show you every single route. Go to Chain Chomper, and that will give you an idea of what you've got to look forward to. And there's going to be 3 laps of that at the end of the Herd Summer Racing League as well, which will be really, really fun. Honest. Couple of other points. We have secured an additional Mountain Goats slot, which is at 1 o'clock UK time, midnight UTC on Sunday, which makes it 10 a.m. on the east coast of Australia, 8 a.m. on the west coast. After all the time zone changes, God knows what that actually means. I think it changes about 2 hours in some direction. But it does mean that there's a morning slot for our Aussie riders. So hopefully we'll get a few people turning up to that. The other piece of news is that after the final event of the Shiris on Tuesday, that's going to move to the weekend. So that's going to be UK time, 12 and 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, and also 1 a.m. on Sunday morning for the Australasians and also West Coast Americans, so they'll be able to join in as well. Moving on to what has Zwift done to annoy us this week. Craig, there must be something.
Honestly, there isn't. So I did try the Autocat race on Tuesday on Seaside Sprint, but to be completely honest, it felt just like a bullseye on that course. It felt just like a B category bullseye. So
you were C3, so was that a mix of B's and C's, or was it all B's and a few A's?
It was mostly B's, and a couple C's in. So I did it in America's West in the last time zone. So yeah, for us there were only a couple C's, and there were a couple of people that I think really looked like A's, but were kind of more TT type, almost A's.
So with your 1 and 5 minute power, I was a little bit surprised you weren't C2.
So my at the moment my 15-second power is down by a lot, and it really is down. It's not just that I haven't done it. And I think on that course that was a big part of the Autocat.
I think Autocat is all about 1, 5, and 20. I'm guessing your 20 is probably around 3839. But from my experience, your 1 and 5 has always been really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, but I guess it depends on who I'm compared to. There's a lot of Bs that are better.
So on paper, I'm probably a very, very high B, but your 1 and 5 minute power would beat me hands down. Brent and Chris, have you entered any of the classics at all?
I have not.
I've done all of them so far. I'll probably have to miss next week.
Are you C3 as well, or?
I'm C3 as well. So, Craig, to hear you say that you're also C3 is a bit surprising, because I think you're probably at least a full, if not a half step. Or hang on, I got that reversed. At least a half, if not a full step ahead of me in terms of training and performance. So, yeah, that one felt like I was saying last week. I haven't been in a bullseye for a while, but the last classic felt a lot like a bullseye. Was able to stick up until the last lap, and then I let the group go at the finish. I couldn't stick with them, but I still finished 10th in points. And then yeah, Richmond. I posted on the racing page at Richmond. I won on points. I didn't finish first across the line because that dude Smith he's broken away the last two races solo. But I won on points. So, but the classics are fun. It's almost like the ZRL, but more individual. So you lose the team element, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah. So
How did you go in your race, Craig? Did you place well?
So I think I was 6th across the line and 5th on points.
Yeah, you did better than I did, for sure.
But I mean, I was probably in a smaller race. I think there were only what were there 40 some-ish, I think. It was a pretty small race. I did feel in a couple spots that I probably should have gone at some point and tried committed to a real attack. I felt like I could have done more, and that probably would have whittled down the group quite a bit. But I also didn't want to be the one that put the most energy out in the front group that ended up happening.
Yeah, especially on that course, you don't want to be the one breaking the wind and then all of a sudden everybody flies by because you saved all the energy for them.
Yeah.
So think about things that Zwift have done to annoy you. Chris and Brent, anything at all?
I've got one, but Brent, you can go ahead first.
Okay, mine is just that I can't believe that they can't come up with a better event finding interface for their website. Companion app is like pretty functional, but I don't understand why that's impossible to translate into a web browser. That blows my mind.
I think the thing about the Zwift events site that's always annoyed me is like, yeah, okay, so I can enter an event A to D, got no idea what route I'm entering into. Whereas on Companion you can see that. So why is that any different?
Yeah, you can flip between days. You can kind of like go down the site. Like it's garbage. It's terrible.
And like as an event organizer, when I'm looking at the events I've organised, I'm on the browser for event organisers. I can see how many laps I've set it to, but without actually going to edit the event, I can't see what the route actually is, which isn't ideal when I'm double checking that I've done the right things. So, yeah, fair point. Chris.
Yeah, so I was doing some meetings yesterday with a colleague of mine, and we got to talking uh, between sessions, and come to find out he's a former cyclist, kind of getting back into fitness. And he was telling me that he went on a Peloton ride on his wife's Peloton last week with one of his friends. And I said, "Oh, have you heard about Zwift?" And he said, "No, tell me about it." It's like, well, it's this cool online cycling platform, and you're dropped into a virtual world with other virtual cyclists on actual roads. And he's like, "Cool. How do I get into that?" And it just went really complicated from there. It's like, well, you got to have a smart trainer, and then you gotta create your account. You got to have a compatible device. Okay, cool. Then I can get into doing like the races and the club rides like you're talking about. Well, no, then you got to have Zwift Power ID, and you got to link it to your account. It frustrates me that Zwift is so complicated. You really have to want it. Like, all of us have ended up here, and it was not an easy journey, thinking back to all the things that we had to do, linking accounts, understanding this whole metaverse that we're all cycling through. And it just got me thinking about how hard it is to be part of this community. And that's what frustrated me this week, trying to explain it to a total newbie who wants to be part of this, how really complicated it is. So hopefully that's in the long-term plans to simplify it for new users. But in the short term, it's just a mess.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, if you look at Swift Racing League, obviously you need to have like one of their recognised smart trainers. You need to have an account on Swift Power. You need to have an account on WTRL. It's a lot more complicated than it should be. I think WTRL do an absolutely phenomenal job, but you need to have an account on Swift Power as well. All of that should be in Zwift. And Zwift, yes, they are paying Martin and Stephen from WTRL, but that should be within Zwift. And yes, Zwift Power is kind of within Zwift, but it's not. So yeah, 100% agree with Chris. In terms of what Zwift have done to annoy me this week, not really anything. I think my only annoyance is like trying to do like 3 hours of training before a team time trial. My legs were dead, and it was very, very painful, as all team time trials should be. But I didn't have the power that I would have liked to have had. But no, Zwift has not actually done anything specific to annoy me this week. Before we close, is there anything else either of you guys would like to add?
Nothing new from me.
I'm sad I'll miss you on Monday, James. Maybe I'll catch you on Sunday.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to do the team time trial, individual time trial Stampede event on Sunday before I go and cycle 340 kilometers on gravel with Simon Gardner and about another 10 other guys from the herd, which is a terrible idea. I've no idea why I thought this was sensible in the first place.
I would say, James, that is not sensible, but it does sound like a great idea. And have a good time.
So for context, Simon Gardner, who's a friend of mine, was like telling me about how he'd like been planning for like the last 3 years to go from the west coast of the UK to the east coast of the UK on the Transpennine Trail, which is probably 95% gravel, and it's about 340 kilometers. There's about 1,000 meters of climbing in there. most of which you can't actually do on the bike because it's really rocky. So you have to push a bike over the hill and do it in 2 days, which is probably 12 to 14 hours of riding each day. And I decided, oh wow, this is an amazing idea. Let's do it this summer and try and involve riders in the herd. So there's like 12 to 14 of us who are going to do it from Wednesday next week. We've all booked hotels. There's a lot of very enthusiastic people there who think, yeah, this will be really easy. It won't be at all easy. It's 12 to 14 hours on the saddle each day. It's going to be really, really hard, but I'm really, really excited about it. The one thing that makes me really, really nervous is whether or not I can get my bike on the train. Because in England, it's really stupid that you can only book 1 or 2 bikes on a train. And the rest of it is up to whether or not they let you do it. So we will see. This time next week, I will probably be an emotional mess. And I will be here on this podcast and I will tell you exactly how much pain I'm in. Expect it to be a very, very large amount. Which is the reason why I can't do Stampede with Brent on Monday.
So circling back to the Stampede on Monday, last week I did the Stampede when we did Casse Pattes. So, I definitely paced it aggressively and was ahead of all the A riders before we hit the KOM.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
It was aggressive. And yeah, I averaged less power on the KOM than I did on the course total. So it was not successful, but it was interesting, and we'll call it a learning experience.
Whereas my plan was to basically like do 4 flat on the flats and then kick as much as I could do on the hill and break Brent, which worked. Whereas Brent could happily break me on flat courses. And Monday gone, I was actually really looking forward to doing 6 laps of fan flats. I say looking forward to in inverted commas. But sadly, I had my second COVID vaccination about 3 days before, and I was not in good shape. So, Brent, how was the Stampede with 6 laps of fan flats?
It was good. It was a really good race. I mean, Kev Fowler was off the front. Nothing you can do about that. But there was like a good group of us that were probably about 15, 20 seconds apart. The one thing I think I might have put it in a comment, but for those flat courses, having loop laps around it is much more mentally sustainable than just a long flat runway. Just because you can kind of be like, all right, I need to target this power for this lap, this power for this lap, and then I need to ramp it up for lap 4, and then try and blast it out for the last lap. That worked really well. I did get past Alex Cooper though, so that was my.
Hey, I was about to say, was Alex Cooper on that race? Because he always goes off so hard, and I think that works on like 40, 50-minute races, but well, definitely 30 to 40. But I think for something that length, what was your time? About 48, 50 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was close. It was just over 50, I think.
Okay.
I think the fastest B on the day was just under 50, and I was like just under 51.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think Alex struggles on anything over 40 because he goes off so hard. Whereas my approach is always to, on the Stampede events, just to hold that pace for, if I can do the whole event on a flat course. Whereas Alex goes really, really hard early on. I was actually re-watching the Stampede we did in Casse Pattes, and I just saw Alex doing like 8 watts a kilo out the gate. I'm just thinking, what the fuck are you doing? But anyway.
Yeah, he did the same thing. He went blasting out the front, and probably by the start, give or take a lap 3 or so, I got him.
Mhm.
But yeah, you'd really like the thing about the individual time times is really like do your homework, like check what the sustainable pace is, check where the climbs are, and then like set your like no, my time, my best ever, like I knew I could do 300 watts for about 50 minutes. That was like give or take. The best I'd ever done was 290. So I like sat on 290 till about halfway through lap 4, and then I tried to go to 300, and then lap 5 I tried to go to 310, and I ended up with an average of 299, which is like you just can't, especially a flat one, you can't sort of beat math and physiology.
Yeah, and I think with Stampede, it's so important to go in with a plan because you can't draft anyone, so there's not going to be any coasting at all. It's a case of looking at the distance, looking at the terrain. What can you hold for those periods of time? Because like Brent, you and I, every single race we've done together, we have a little chat before saying, "Oh, I'm going to try and do this, trying to do that," and it's always really important to go in with a plan rather than just trying to instinctively hold wheels. Because if you go on a flat course and try and hold Kev Fowler's wheel, you are going to be screwed because that guy he's going to do like 310, 330 the whole way round, and if you don't have that in your like arsenal, then you have no chance. Do what you can, set the best time you possibly can, because your time is going to be like fielded across all 5 events, and realistically, the race we normally do, like 7 o'clock my time on Monday, is almost always the fastest. So just do the best time you can.
Yeah, and there was like 15 herd racers in that Monday race. So, there's lots of company. There's people at every speed level for you to go race against. Don't worry about trying to race with the A's or the top B's. Just go find 3 or 4 people that are about your speed and try and get, 1 or 5 seconds better than them next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely say so in addition to having a plan is actually following said plan. So that's where I always fall down.
Yeah. I'm quite familiar with Craig's plans and Craig not managing to follow the plan. Craig, tell us what your plan was last Monday.
So my plan was to go at around 300 watts to the aqueduct, go harder than that up the aqueduct, and then recover to the comm and hit the comm hard. I kind of forgot to ease off after the aqueduct.
So, what's 300 watts in terms of watts per kilo?
Right at 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your FTP in terms of watts per kilo?
Around 3.7.
Okay, so basically on a 35-minute course, you were planning on doing 0.3 over your FTP, and then even more on the hills.
That was my plan. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, no, there's about a 5-minute gap where I was going to recover in the middle, and this is one. So that is actually so. To be realistic,
where was this 5-minute gap occurring?
Between the top of the aqueduct and the bottom of the KOM,
which takes you about 1 minute 30 to get to.
That's more than 1 minute 30.
Fair enough. I'm very impressed with your optimism. How long did you hold 4.0 for?
Oh, I was the whole way to the KOM, and then I accelerated up the KOM, and then then it went bad.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so
I have to admit, I'm very impressed that you held 4.0 for that long.
I blew up on the first switchback of the KOM, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good effort. I think on that note, after Craig explaining how we went really, really, really hard, probably not really anything for us to talk about.
I think
Which
we
is
have
very.
exhausted our ability to be interesting for the night.
I think you may be right, but it's been lovely to chat to Chris, Brent, and Craig the second week in a row. And I hope you will all join us next week. Thank you, gentlemen, and good night.
Always good to catch up. Cheers.